But one of the things they came back with a big theme on is that we've got to pay more attention to the opportunity as well as some of the challenges that are there from a technology standpoint. And I'll tell you a couple of the big themes that came from it, but one of the things is they noted, which I believe very strongly, is we're not going to solve a lot of our challenges without greater utilization of technology. And I imagine I'm preaching to the crowd here, but I mean, having been a college president, you all are on local campuses, you know not everybody believes that. You know that there are a lot of folks that, they're waiting for this internet fad to pass, distant as to pass. We can finally get back to the chalkboard. You will hear people tell you, we're going to have to, at some point we're going to get, they're going to have to realize we need a heck of a lot more counselors. And I'm here to tell you, we're not going to get a lot more counselors. We're not going to get back to a place where we're all teaching in front of the class, and we're not going to have lots more counselors, and we're going to have a lot more students who are going to keep coming. And as I've often said, we're sort of in this perfect storm right now, but everybody's waiting to be rescued. And the thing we have to realize is we are the rescuers. We're not the folks in the boat. We're the folks in the little helicopter up here supposed to get the folks out of the boat. And it's going to take technology for us to be able to do that. Our challenge, though, is that we can't do everything. So we've got to focus where we put our bets. What do we focus on? And so there were a couple of key themes that came out of the Innovative Ideas Committee. One theme was that technology, in terms of our Success in C efforts, and the use of technology had to be much more infused into our student success discussion. Theme number one. Theme number two was, and if I can remember these, I may not get to theme three, but theme two was, and hear this in the right way, is that there has to be much more of a kind of user discussion in technology, and it wasn't so much the notion that folks who are on the technology side are not listening. I think it was more the sense, and Sandra I think would help me with this, is that we don't take things far enough in terms of our discussion, and we put too much pressure on the technology developers, if you will, in terms of the development of technologies that we need. Let me give you a couple of examples in the way I would see that. We have a huge data problem in the community college system right now. It's a big problem. I mean, you all may disagree with me, but if you go to the data warehouse, do you believe everything that comes out of it? No. Now, that's not a technology problem. Now, there may be some technology problems, but it's a data problem because we've put pressure in there, and what we did is we have collected so much data over time, but at some point we weren't disciplined enough to say, here's what an apple is, here's what an orange is. So we have a system that does not have data integrity, because what it is at this college is what it is because we haven't taken it to the next step in defining what that data is. And to be honest with you, correct me if I'm wrong, but we got a mess in that regard. Another example of where we've put too much pressure, I think, has been in our learning technologies areas, because we talked about this. If we look at our program area, our courses, we have pretty. We define what the competencies that come out of those courses, but come on, let's face it. I mean, we got 3 or 4 sentence descriptions. You can drive a truck for those competencies. So then we put the pressure on the folks who are developing courses from a technology standpoint or learning objects to have to really get into the work of defining what the competencies should be, not just what are the best ways of utilizing technology. So there's been a lot of pressure placed on the technology world because we haven't been clear enough about what the definitions of competency should be, or data, or other things. So that was kind of a fundamental thing. And the third one I'm blanking on. I'll have to get my notes. With what? Well, that's a whole, let me get back to that, but it'll come to me. Oh, here it is, because I'm thinking, Ralph Sony's not here, but Ralph would remind me quick. No, it's this, is that, and this is a huge challenge for us, but it's about technology access, but not so much, I don't think about technology access from the difference in terms of students, means in terms of being able to access technology, but that, I fully believe this, technology is the big equalizer. but there's still a long way. I mean, you can say it's the big equalizer, but if you don't have access to the internet, it's not the big equalizer. There's big differences in what you're able to do at Central Piedmont than what you're able to do at Roanoke Schwann. And we've got to figure out ways such that you can, and we got to think through our technologies a little bit such that what you're able to do at Roanoke Schwann may be different from what you can do at Central Piedmont, but it's not that much different. And that was a fundamental theme coming out of the innovative ideas. So here's the next place I'm going to, and then kind of open it up for discussion with you. So where do we go from here? And one of the things with innovative ideas is there was a conversation about COLT. Well, we've got COLT going on, and we like what COLT's doing, and there were meetings that were going on, but there's not enough interaction that's going on, you know, and it's not COLT's fault. It's just in thinking about these things, we've got to pull these things together. Are there ways we can pull the thinking that's coming through innovative ideas with the work with COLT? Maybe there's a way of rethinking, repurposing, if you will, kind of a blended model that's not innovative ideas, it's not COLT, and looking at some real strategic challenges. But what I also, you know, the thing I like to think about with challenges, if you just think about challenges all day, then you just want to go home and either shoot yourself or crawl under the bed. But a lot of times if you think about it right, you can flip it to the opportunities that are there. And so one of the things I saw in the challenges they were talking about and the things we have to pay attention to, I think there are some huge technology opportunities for us, but what we're going to need to do is focus real intensely. We're not going to be able to do everything right now, but I think there's 3 areas that we need to focus on. And that's what I'd like to think about with you, is not saying, okay, COLT, go focus on these 3 things. Innovative ideas, which is going away, or it's not going away, but it's, well, it is going away, but it's kind of done their work. But how do we meld what we're doing to focus in some real core areas? Plus, I think we're going to need to keep a focus going in terms of learning technology policy. I think we've seen that we've got, and I'll tell you something that's coming along too that's going to cause us, I think, even more to think about that. But I think we're going to have to keep a maintenance going, or maintain a group thinking about learning technology policy in addition to the 3 areas I'm talking about. So one of the areas is, and what they started talking about in innovative ideas, they actually broke up into 3 groups. They had chairs of the groups, and one group focused on 21st century learning, one group focused on 21st century teaching. As they've pointed out, we haven't spent enough time talking about teaching in terms of student success, and then 21st century student support. Now, this isn't exactly the way they were talking about it, but sort of in my mind, I organized some of their thinking from my perspective, from a technology perspective, in thinking in those 3 areas. First, 21st century learning. In that regard, this is not exactly what they may have been talking about, but one of the things that we talked about is we've got to do better in terms of being able to learn from, I wouldn't say data, but learning from analysis. We swim in data. We starve for analysis. And we miss things that just shoot right over our heads. That's why we're spending so much time thinking now about developmental education, the high school to college transition. I mean, for years we've had all this rich data, but we've had 2/3 of our students, as they come out of high school, we put back into high school level classes. And a lot of them in courses that are so low that only 8% ever get through of the 40% that we put in the lowest that get through a gatekeeper course. And then students come to us on the other side, and you know, only 1/3 of our students who transfer take English and math with us. So there's a lot of data that's out there, but we haven't done a whole lot of analysis with it. And we've got to get better in terms of how we pay attention to certain types of things, and have an opportunity where you can't just count on, okay, well, we did the analysis at the system office, here it is. You've got to be, and that's what you're doing in certain places. In fact, that's what we saw at the listening tour. People are trying to figure out ways to get around a system that is not working for them. And I would suggest to you our data system's not working for you right now. Now, part of that's not anybody's fault. As Sandra will tell you, you know, several years ago, we didn't finish the investment in the data warehouse on the technology side because we ran into a problem on the accounting side, so we moved a lot of the money over to that. The other thing we haven't really done is we haven't really talked about the importance of data integrity. And so over the years, we've been collecting data, but not doing a whole lot of good analysis with it. And we probably collect way too many things because we don't pay attention to the things we should pay attention to. So here's the real opportunities on the data side. One is I think there's a group that's working through the 5 colleges with completion by design. Central Piedmont being one of those that are helping to think through some of those data elements we really should pay attention to. The performance measures group has paid attention to that and looking at, I call them the big 8. Here's the technology opportunity though that's before us, and so what we're going to try to do, and this is where I need feedback from you, although don't everybody call me at the same time. You might talk to Sandra if you're interested in any of these areas. But one of the areas is we're going to pull together a group that's going to focus on this notion of 21st century learning, but how do we learn from data and the tools that are out there? We have here's the real opportunity. I've told you the challenge is there right now, and you all know this better than I do, so correct me if I'm wrong. But the real opportunity we have right now is we have in North Carolina arguably the best private sector data analytics company in the world, which happens to be right down the street. Now, a few years ago, there were conversations between universities and community colleges and SAS about creating a new resource tool. That kind of flittered away. But SAS came back to us, what, about 6 months ago, or longer now, 6 months ago, with the notion of they were really wanted to, and at their highest levels, jump in and help us address our data analytics issues. And as what they're also looking at is how we feed into the state P20 efforts. But so they are putting a lot of resource into us right now, which can mean free resource for in terms of technology, professional development, but really, and Sandra, you'll have to help me with this, but I think really what we're talking about is almost a data warehouse 2 on top of what we currently have right now.